In the previous video, we set up our weapon object and began writing the weapon script. Next, we'll integrate it into our scene. There are two ways we can add the script to the weapon. One way is to drag the script onto the weapon object. Another way is to select the weapon object, click Add Component, and type Basic Weapon. Next, we'll add the label to this field by first of all locating it in the hierarchy, finding the ammo panel, label, and we'll drag that label into the slot. Let's test the game. Now, every time I'm clicking the button, reducing the amount of ammo by 1. When I reach 0, we go back up to 8. You'll notice that when we began the game, the amount of ammo displayed was 999. We'll need to call update UI inside the start function as well. Now, when we start the game, the amount of ammo is correct. Let's now add shots to the game. Right now, all we're doing is reducing the amount of ammo, but we'd like to have some kind of impact in the world. What we'd like to see is some sparks appear at the end of the invisible line that the gun shoots out. The way that we'll do this is by defining a shoot point, which will be a location and direction through which all projectiles will go. We'll begin by creating a new empty child of the weapon object. With it selected, we'll go Game Object, Create Empty Child. We'll name this Shoot Point. The shoot point will be moved approximately 0.5 units in front of the camera. You might notice that the shoot point is not at the end of the weapon itself. That's because while it will be more realistic to put it at the end of the weapon graphics, players actually find it easy to think about the shot as emanating from their point of view. That said, this is a decision that is up to you. Additionally, by moving it forward outside of the collision radius of the player character, remember that's this volume here, we are keeping the shoot point from being inside the character. We want to make sure that the shoot point is not in the character because otherwise shots could end up hitting ourselves. Now that we've made the shoot point object, we'll add a property to the basic weapon script that allows it to know about it. Let's go back into MonoDevelop and we'll add a new property, public transform shoot point. Next, we want to have some kind of effect that appears to represent the impact of the projectile that the weapon is shooting hitting the surface. We'll do this using a particle effect. I've already prepared an effect for use in this game, and I won't be talking about how it was put together, but if you're interested, you can open the file yourself and take a look. The effect is contained inside a package file that's distributed along with this video. Let's take a look at it. I'll double-click and open it in Unity. It imports 3 files, a Sparks prefab, a Spark texture, and also a material. Let's click Import. This was adapted from the particle effects that come as part of the Unity standard assets. Let's drag it into the scene to see how it looks. I'll drag Sparks into here. There we go. If you missed it, I'll play it again. I'll click Stop, Simulate. There we go. Let's remove that from the scene. We want instances of this effect to be created where the raycast ends. That is, every time we hit the fire button, we're shooting an invisible line out, and then at the end of that line, we want this effect to appear. This means instantiating this prefab. In order for the script to be able to do that, it needs to know about the prefab. So let's go back into the code, and we'll add a new variable, a public game object called impact effect prefab. Let's now connect up our weapon to these objects. Select the weapon and drag the shoot point object into the shoot point slot. Next, drag the sparks effect into the impact effect prefab slot. Next, we'll make our weapon create the effect when we shoot. We'll go back into the code, and we'll go to the fire function. In this function, we'll perform a raycast to see if any hit occurred. If there was, we'll instantiate the impact effect and position it at that hit point. Additionally, we'll angle it so that the sparks are bouncing off the surface. First, we'll create a variable called hitInfo, raycast hit info. This will store information about the raycast hit. Next, we'll create a ray, which will be an invisible line that has a certain direction and position starting point. var ray equals new ray. It takes a starting point, which is the shoot point position, and also the shoot point's forward direction. Next, we'll perform the raycast itself by saying bool hit equals physics.raycast. When we call raycast, we'll provide the ray object, and also we'll specify that it should supply information about the hit into the hitInfo variable by saying out hitInfo. Finally, we'll specify a maximum range, so any hit beyond this point, beyond 100 units, will not be counted. Max range. The variable hit will either be true or false. If it's false, then we didn't hit anything within 100 units. If it is true, then we hit something and we should show the impact effect. If hit, then, first of all, we'll instantiate the impact effect by saying var impact effect equals instantiate impact effect prefab. Next, we'll say impact effect dot transform dot position equals hit info dot point. This is the point at which the hit occurred. So now we're positioning it correctly. Next, we want the sparks to bounce off the surface. We want the sparks to be bouncing away from us. For example, if we were firing a projectile at a wall that's facing us but at a slight angle, then we'd want the sparks to be bouncing off the wall, away from the wall, but also away from us. We can do this using the vector3 reflect function to reflect off the surface that we hit. So let's define the direction by saying var direction equals vector3 dot reflect. We'll take the shoot point forward and reflect it off the surface by saying hit info dot normal. The normal is a direction that's perpendicular to the surface that we hit. Once we have this direction, we'll apply it to the impact effects transform forward direction, which is the direction in which the sparks will appear. So this direction is now the direction. Finally, to clean up after ourselves, we'll remove the effect after a few seconds by destroying it. Destroy impact effect after 4 seconds. Let's save our work and go back into Unity. We can now test the game. We'll play the game, look down, and click the fire button. Notice every time I click, we reduce the ammo by 1, and we also cause sparks to appear at the point that we shot. If I aim at the box, the sparks bounce off the side of the box.